Madam President and Vice Chancellor, guests, and Carleton graduates. It's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Hilary Pearson. Ms. Pearson's career has spanned all three sectors: public, private, and not-for-profit. She began her career with the Canadian federal government, where she spent over 12 years as a policy analyst and senior manager. Moving to Montreal in 1993, Ms. Pearson became Vice President, Strategic Development at Royal Bank of Canada. In 1996, she became a management consultant and began to work in the nonprofit sector with a wide range of clients, from national membership organizations and operating charities to local organizations in the health, cultural, and social services fields. In November 2001, she was named President of Philanthropic Foundations Canada, a member association for Canada's independent and family foundations. Ms. Pearson is a member of several nonprofit boards, including the nonprofit sector umbrella organization, Imagine Canada, as well as the United Nations Association in Canada and the Stafford Shakespeare Festival of Canada. Ms. Pearson holds a BA and an MA in political economy from the University of Toronto. Madam President and Vice Chancellor, in recognition of an outstanding contribution in social investment, in philanthropic leadership, and for a stellar career in public, private, and not-for-profit organizations, I request that you confer the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, upon Ms. Hilary Pearson.
Thank you. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Senate and the board of this university, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, with all the rights, responsibilities, and privileges thereto pertaining. Congratulations and welcome to Carleton University. I'll hold this for you. Would you address Convocation?
Madam President, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, faculty, honored guests, families, and graduates, thank you so very much for this deeply appreciated honor. Thank you also for asking me to share this moment with so many extraordinary young people who are graduating today from the Faculty of Engineering. I extend my congratulations to all of you for your achievements. And I congratulate your families for their support and encouragement to you as you made your way over the years to this memorable day. I admit to feeling surprise at the news that Carleton was prepared to recognize me in such a manner. I come from a family in which the honors have accrued indeed, but up to now they have been bestowed quite deservedly on my elders. Indeed, my grandfather, Lester Pearson, a man of many honors, walked this campus as Chancellor of Carleton many years ago. My mother, Landon, is also the proud recipient of a Carleton honorary degree, and I'm very pleased that she's here to support me, as well as having the She also has the distinction of serving as an adjunct professor at this university. And my father, Jeffrey, published his study of Canadian foreign policy with Carleton University Press. So we've had a long association with Carleton as a family, and I'm honored to be the third generation at this event. I am humbled as well as appreciative that Carleton has chosen to single me out and to acknowledge some of my own contributions. I'm described as a philanthropist in the profile that the university has prepared about me. and many of you may wonder what that means. In the popular imagination, philanthropy has a rather soft connotation of doing good in the community. It is certainly not a profession for which you train or in which you can obtain a credential. Anyone can be one. There is no final exam, I can assure you. You may also be wondering whether a so-called philanthropist has much to say to the graduates of the very hard and exact science of engineering. I have thought long indeed about what I might have to share with you on this day, given the differences in our professions. It is not easy. I decided that what I could offer you was the simplest possible advice. Keep the window open and cultivate your garden. This last phrase comes from the often quoted closing words of Voltaire's Candide, "Il faut cultiver notre jardin." The most vivid way to illustrate this advice may be to tell you some brief stories of those, including myself, who have tried to follow it. Let me start with engineers, since you now bear that proud designation. How many of you, I wonder, have heard of Jeff Skoll? It's not a test. You don't have to put your hand up either. Mr. Skoll is a philanthropist. He is also an electrical engineer, educated at the University of Toronto and at Stanford. Jeff Skoll went to Stanford to do graduate work in business, and where at Stanford he became friends with a computer programmer called Pierre Omidyar. Together, Skoll and Omidyar started an online auction site called eBay. Some $1 billion later, Jeff Skoll started his own philanthropic foundation with the dream of developing the idea of social entrepreneurship, or defined as the combination of the profit-centered focus of business with the social mission of helping the needy in the community. Skoll dedicates himself full-time now to the exploration of his passion. His commitment to the principles of social entrepreneurship led him to establish the Skoll Center for Social Entrepreneurship at Oxford University in England. And he has also financed a film production company, since he lives in California, called Participant Media, which has made movies with social messages such as An Inconvenient Truth, and I'm sure many of you have seen An Inconvenient Truth with Al Gore, and The Kite Runner, among other movies. Skoll kept a window open when he joined Pierre Omidyar to start eBay, and he continues to cultivate his personal knowledge and share his skills through philanthropy. How many of you have heard of Mike Lazaridis? Mr. Lazaridis is a philanthropist. He also trained as an electrical engineer. While still a student at the University of Waterloo, Mr. Lazaridis, along with his friend Jim Balsillie, started a small company called Research in Motion. Today, the inventor of the BlackBerry is a major donor, following his passion for science and pure research. He has made a $150 million gift to launch his dream, the Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics in Waterloo. Lazaridis actually kept his window open by dropping out of engineering to start RIM, but clearly not an example that one always wants to follow, and none of you did. Just like another famous dropout, Bill Gates. Through his philanthropy, he has been able to create a garden and to plant an extraordinary seed of research that will lead to social transformations even greater than the BlackBerry. How many of you have heard of Parker Mitchell and George Roeder? I'm hoping someone has. They are philanthropists. They also trained as mechanical engineers at the University of Waterloo. In 2000, they started Engineers Without Borders in Canada. It's a nonprofit international organization that provides a place for engineers to become involved in the promotion of human development in Canada and overseas. Parker and George want to open windows for everyone. In Parker's words, quote, "They believe in creating a generation of concerned citizens, in reaching 50% of high school students across Canada, in engaging every one of Canada's 200,000 engineers as a donor to development, and in helping Canadian corporations lead the world in their socially responsible operations overseas. Very ambitious goals. What do these stories have in common? While all of these individuals would have described themselves as engineers, none of them would, I suggest, have described themselves as philanthropists, but so they are. They kept their personal windows open to possibility, and they cultivate their gardens, that is, their own fields of dreams. Each of these engineers has ended up in an unexpected place, perhaps, but their journeys seem to be immensely rewarding to them. What does my own story have to tell you? I can assure you that as a young graduate, trained as a political economist, I did not think of myself as a philanthropist. I was following in the path of members of my family who have for 3 generations involved themselves in public service. I began my full-time career here in Ottawa, working for a member of Parliament, and then becoming a civil servant. It sounds straightforward enough, but I was keeping my window open. During my decade or more as a member of the public service, I actually changed title and role 11 times in 3 different departments. Many of the roles that I took on were unexpected to me, but each one was a fascinating opportunity to learn about how government works and why it matters so much to Canadians that it work well. As you all know, Carleton has a special role to play and a well-deserved reputation of excellence in training future public policy makers. I can only reiterate how important it is to have well-trained, open, and flexible young minds applying themselves to the work of government. This matters more than ever in the 21st century, when public policy challenges are complicated, multidimensional, and moving at BlackBerry speed. Engineering, I believe, may be an ideal training for this type of work. Perhaps some of you are keeping a window open on that possibility. I hope so. Turning back to my story, I have spent the past decade cultivating my personal passion for the growth of private philanthropy in Canada. A window opened for me in 2001 when I was invited to help build a national network for Canada's philanthropic foundations. These often small, private, grant-making charities collectively own over $15 billion in assets. This is actually not a large amount when compared to public or corporate funders, and in no way as large as the pension fund sector in Canada, for example. Nonetheless, the importance of private philanthropy to Canada cannot be overstated. Foundations are not just funders, not only mere philanthropists. They are discoverers, innovators, champions, communicators, collaborators. They support the untested, they spot the unexplored, they take risks on the unproven, and they convene the community around the most important issues of the day. I have been fortunate indeed to work with some of Canada's greatest philanthropists. Would I have known when I was sitting where you sit that this was my future? No, I would not have been able to imagine it. But I was given by my education and by my family an eagerness to keep opening windows. I was also shown by my family at an early age the importance of cultivating my talents. I hope that I have been able to share this message with you today. I will close by quoting from another speaker at another graduation just last year. J.K. Rowling, author of the Harry Potter books, and I'm sure you've all read them, or your younger brothers and sisters have read them. J.K. Rowling spoke at Harvard's graduation ceremonies in 2008. She closed her speech with a quotation from Seneca, the great Roman philosopher, which I find particularly appropriate and meaningful to me. Perhaps it will to you as well. As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. Echoing J.K. Rowling, I wish all of you very good lives. Thank you.